قد ذهبت أربابه كل من سار على الدرب وصل في ازدياد العلم إرغام العدا وجمال العلم إصلاح العمل جمل المنطق بالنحو فمن يحرم الإعراب بالنطق التبل انظم الشعر ولازم مذهبي في اطراح الرفض لا تبغي النحل.
Okay, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Salatu Wassalamu ala Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum everyone, all the viewers there. Welcome back to another episode of Ibn Battuta's Boat. This is a podcast aimed towards the Muslim youth living here in the...
You look like a typical Aki, you know, with the
Nike
socks.
Nike socks, the Air Maxes, the fold. I'm chilling, innit? I'm chilling. Anyway, Omar, you watch as well, yeah? Don't watch.
No, hopefully no Ayn or anything like that.
Joking. So yeah, Ibn Battuta's Boat is a podcast that is aimed towards the Muslim youth living here in the UK, and what we're trying to do is expose those kind of discussions that you guys are having maybe in university, you're having with your friends, with your family, and maybe you're hearing certain topics in khutbahs that you wish you could engage with. We're trying to bring all those topics here on the sofa, get the right speakers in, the academics, the shayukh, the students of knowledge, just the the creatives, the academics, all those kind of people, and we're going to try and talk about those particular topics with them and expose their thoughts about it. So that's what we're here to do. And today we had our Sheikh Omar Hajaj, who came down and spoke a lot about his experiences with youth work and things like this. Inshallah, Asim can expand a little bit more on that.
Yeah, so this is our 9th episode with Sheikh Omar Hajaj, Ustad Omar Hajaj. I first got to know him a few years back when he came to do a small dars, and me and Muhammad went to go see it on Muntada. So that was my first exposure of Ustad. He's just recently graduated from University of Madeenah. What faculty was it?
Sharia.
Sharia, yeah. Faculty of Sharia. And he's the founder of Yaseen Youth Tours, which is Shuaib's he's volunteering for as well. And in that organization that he has started and he's worked with, he facilitates for youth, young people to go to do Umrah and go all the way to go all the way to do Umrah. And he's been doing this for about 2 years, about one and a bit years now, isn't it?
Yeah,
about 1 year.
I think almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. Today we have Omar Hajaj. He's come to talk us about exactly what he's doing. So with the Yaseen Youth Tours, but generally under the scope of youth work. The history of youth, the types of youth. The
types of youth, even like his own youth experiences.
Yeah, his own personal youth experience that he hasn't actually told in public before as well. So we hope that's khair in that as well.
Exclusive.
It's exclusive.
And also him also being a youth to his teachers, and how his teachers mentored him the same way that he tries to mentor youth. The kind of the connection it's had, and what kind of benefits that's kind of transformed. There was so many. We talked about food as well. Favorite foods and things like this. We talked about generally sort of different projects that youth can get involved in, and also advice was given to the youth in terms of how they can help themselves as well, inshallah. And
that's
also
how we ended it.
This episode, we're hoping that not only is the youth, you can take some benefit from this, but those who are involved within youth work, or who are community leaders, who are parents, who are teachers, inshallah, if you're listening to this, that you can take some benefits on how you can craft your skills and craft what you're doing to be able to give the best product possible to the youth. And to be able to take them from a stage where they're at right now, where they may not be so motivated or interested about Islam or maybe anything else in terms of career ambitions, that you can take them to that space where they do feel like that. Inshallah, there's some benefits from this episode that you can use in that kind of work.
Definitely. Yeah.
Cool.
Jazakallah khair.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh Umar.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh Asim, you alright? Good, alhamdulillah. So we made it, alhamdulillah, for this episode. And we've got today our guest, Sheikh Omar Hajaj, who has joined us. Inshallah, we're going to be going through a lot of kind of topics about the youth and a lot of the work that you're involved in terms of the youth. And inshallah, we're going to touch a little bit into your experiences about Madeenah and what you think about how da'wah has developed within the UK. But I think firstly, to start off with this conversation is we want to start with the icebreaker, maybe something a bit light. I want to talk about food. Everybody loves food. Everybody likes food. So we want to talk about what would be your favorite food. But I think when we say favorite food, it's hard because sometimes you have a favorite food at home. Sometimes you have a favorite food when you're picking a certain restaurant or something like this.
How about this? Where have you been and travelled to and had the best food? That's a good combination because you got experience there and you've got the food as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu salam ala rasulillah. Favorite food, that's a really good one. SubhanAllah, recently I've been really enjoying Asian food. I've been loving it, and it's funny.
Which type of Asian food? Like South Asian, like curries and all of that?
Yeah, SubhanAllah, because growing up, we never used to like curries. We never used to eat curries.
Oh, is it? Okay.
We used to have a very respectful, good neighbours, Pakistani neighbours, and may Allah reward them. They used to always send us food.
And we didn't eat it.
So growing up, I never thought I would like or enjoy Asian food. But when I became, an adult, and I started going out with friends to Asian restaurants, I started loving it. And especially the last couple of years, I would never say no to going out to a nice Asian restaurant. Yeah, I would spend good money just to eat a good curry.
What about the chili? How do you deal with the spices and stuff?
So there's been some evolution, you can say, or some gradual change, because in the beginning I can't eat chili, and then now I can. So bit by bit I always increase my chili level, and it's enjoyable.
Have you gone to any Asian countries so far?
Not yet. But in terms of where have I travelled and enjoyed a good meal, I used to live in Jordan for around 5 years.
Okay.
And Jordan, there's two types of people. There's modern people who are from the city, and then you have people who are from the Bedouin, from the desert.
Yeah.
And my dad had a restaurant in Jordan, and there was a man who worked with us. He was from the Samadi tribe, which is one of the famous Jordanian authentic Bedouin tribes.
Okay.
So we were invited to eat at his farm in the desert, and they made something called mensaf.
Okay.
Now in Jordan you have a place called Salt. It's a city in Salt, a historical city, and the way they do their yogurt, they preserve it by putting lots of salt, some authentic original salt on it, so it becomes like rocks and small balls. And historically there was no fridges, so that's how they used to preserve their food. So, but until today they use that system or that way, that method, because they're very simple people, Bedouin people, so they live in tents, they don't have fridges. Even if they could be wealthy people, they like to live a very simple life. So once we went on a road trip, we travelled 2 hours. At night time, Fajr time came, and we just had a whole day in the desert with a group of 30 people, all of the staff that used to work in the restaurant, and they slaughtered 2 sheep and took out the skin, and then they started cooking the meat, and the meat is cooked. Then they started cooking the yogurt.
Yeah.
So the yogurt became like the gravy.
Okay.
Like the curry. And they cooked the meat with the yogurt.
Okay.
So there's a lot of flavour and taste in the meat. And then all I see is a very big plate, lots of rice, the yogurt on top, and lots of pieces of meat with nuts, and then the head in the middle. And everyone's saying, "Tfaddal, tfaddal," everyone's eating. And me coming from the UK, that was a new experience to eat with your hand. And to eat from one big plate, and people are just fighting for the head as well.
Is that like one of the best bits about it? Is the head? Is that what they say? Like,
it's a sign of manhood.
Okay.
To eat
if you could
the
eat
brain
the head
and the stuff inside.
Wow. Oh, they keep everything in there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's an I need to try that one day. Wow, subhanallah. Okay, so. For me, obviously I'm Pakistani, so we grew up with like curries and Asian food and all of that kind of stuff. But then as I got older, I started experiencing, like, a lot of my friends were like Iraqi or Iranian or Afghan. So that kind of like cuisine with like, you know, juicy kebabs and rice and everything.
Kobeda.
Yeah, all of that kind of stuff. And so I started eating more of that. And I think then when I got to university, I had lots of friends that were Malaysians, because in my university there were so many Malaysians. So then I had some Malaysian food with my friends. They would take me places. I'd go to their dormitory, everything. They would cook food. We would have some Malaysian food.
I had Malaysian food.
Have you had it? Nice. It's really good, isn't it?
It's nice.
It shows you're an open-minded person, mashallah, for you to be able to, you know, try different things. That's good.
Do you know, because actually my mom would always say this, and when I was younger, I was the only kid, I have an older brother and older sister, I was the only kid that would eat anything. Like,
liberal person you are. Your brothers were conservative, reserved.
My brother, he was like, no vegetables, only meat. My sister, she was very particular about certain things. I was like, I'll eat anything, I'll eat this, that, whatever. So I think because of that, like from a child, I was eat anything. But as I grew up, I liked different dishes. And now I think my favourite, I think home cooked food is always the best. Obviously, your mom's food, you can't, you can't like, you know, get away from it.
Once you go away from home cooked food and you come back, you can't leave.
And now it's a luxury because I live away from my mom. So when I go back, I'm like, oh, you know. But I think other than that, my favourite food has to be Afghan food.
I'm starting to really like Afghani food as well.
It's so good. Like,
is it quite salty? Is it just me? Or is that different?
I don't know, maybe for different dishes.
No,
I don't think so. Yeah, they could be sweet. But the way they do their rice and their meat is something else, man.
The rice. Kabuli, Kabuli palau. Oh,
So
you know what? That is nice. That is nice. There was an Afghan restaurant in Manchester, Al Jazeera.
Okay.
Have you guys been before?
I heard of it.
Oh man, the half chicken with rice there. The Afghan rice with chicken on top, grilled chicken.
It's good, yeah?
Wallahi, it's amazing.
Best meal you had, yeah?
But actually, my best one I've had was, because it was the experience. So there's a restaurant in Manchester, I'm not sure if they still got it now. It used to call Hadramaut.
Okay.
Because it's a city in Yemen.
Yeah.
And so you go there. Huh?
The Mendi, did they do the Mendi there?
No, it's like a small restaurant, yeah? Right. But at Windsor Road, a small road off Windsor Road. And you go there and you sit on the floor. And it's got them, you know, them seats.
Nice experience.
Yeah, because it's a bit like you know, Yemen and Oman, they're very connected. So when I went to Oman for Eid, after Eid with my family, we went to restaurants like that. Okay. So I was thinking maybe because they're similar to country, geographically speaking. But in that restaurant, they all sit on the floor, and it's just nice atmosphere. Everyone's just chilling.
It's very different.
It brings like, you know, the brotherhood together. Even, you know, the Prophet alayhi salam, the companions once, they complained, they said, we eat but we don't get full. So the Prophet ﷺ said, it could be that you are not eating together. You're not coming together to eat from one plate, from one platter. And then ever since they heard that from the Prophet ﷺ, they started eating together, and there was barakah place in their food. Even the meal for two will feed a meal for three people. But it's always, I really like eating while I'm sitting on the floor, especially with a group of people. You enjoy the food together, you bond and connect with them.
Because it's more like an informal setting, rather than having table or chair. You know,
Trust
it's
me, man.
much more, you can be a bit more chilled out with how you are. Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair. Moving on from that, I want to get into some of your experiences with the youth work and things like this. But I think a good place to start this conversation is to kind of reflect on how were you as a youth growing up in terms of the environment that was around you, you know, growing up, you know, sort of as a teenager and then going into adulthood. How was the kind of environment around you growing up in London and elsewhere? I think you said you travelled a little bit as well. How would you compare that now with kind of the youth that are growing up here? Because you interact with them a lot. Inshallah, we'll go into, you know, some of the projects that you have with the youth, but we know that you do a lot of youth work and you interact with them. Have you kind of seen that they're facing the same issues, or they've grown up in a different way, they have a totally different outlook? And inshallah, maybe that's something that can help us understand why you do your youth work in the way that you do it, inshallah.
Yeah. Personally, I was born in the UK in Kent.
Okay.
There wasn't many Muslim. There wasn't really a Muslim community there. We were the only Arab Muslims in school.
Where about in Kent? Kent's quite big.
Sidcup.
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 Okay. Kent is like
outside London.
Southeast of London.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's outside. It's in the outskirts of
Yeah,
southeast London. Yeah, but it's really big as well. You can
Yeah.
take hours
Yeah.
just going around. But then I moved to Jordan for like 5 years, and then I came back here. I came back to the UK. When I went to Jordan,
How old were you when you came back?
I was 10 when I came back.
Okay.
So I moved to Jordan when I was 5.
Yeah.
I came back when I was 10.
Okay.
So I came back to a school, a public school, in the middle of year 4. Now, what happened was in Jordan, so there was a bit of change in my life, personal life, that we kind of once lived a bit of a comfortable life,
Yeah.
and then we lived a bit of a
Rough.
difficult life. Yeah. So Jordan was the good
Okay.
life. London was the rough life.
Oh, I thought you meant the
Yeah, it
opposite.
should have
around.
been.
Yeah.
So when we came back here, we kind of started from scratch again with family. In Jordan, the school that I went to was an American school. It was a private American school.
Okay.
So most of my friends were American.
And they would teach English, like their classes
We would
would be
speak
in
English. So
Okay.
even though we were in an Arabic country,
Yeah.
in school all my friends were Americans, or we
Okay.
were speaking English. But I did taste a bit of Arab culture living in Jordan, having cousins and family there. I didn't have a very practicing family, so my upbringing wasn't too religious. I didn't go to like an Islamic school or madrasa. We had some Arabic classes, some Arabic classes, and a bit of Islamic studies, but they were very, very vague, and the school was very secular even. However, personally, I was very interested with that limited knowledge that they taught us about the Prophet ﷺ, and I did have like a desire to want to learn more about Islam when I'm older. The film The Message came out at that time, this 90s. That really kind of had some impact on me. When I went back to the UK, for a few months, I was trying to get familiar back to like the
way
culture, the way people are. And I was a bit homesick in the beginning.
Okay.
Because
you're so used to the Jordanian
I had
culture.
my own friends, and they're just different. At that time, PlayStation was everyone was into PlayStation. Then PlayStation 2 came out. Then phones, like phones with color, phones with that started getting popular.
You get the flip ones, you get the slide ones.
Nokia Snake. that was what the youth were up to. I would say that it is very different today. After joining second school, after kind of you can say integrated to London society, and made my friends. Then after going to high school, I felt British again. By the time I got to secondary school, I felt British again. At that time, what was popular amongst the youth was MCing, grime, UK style of rap. So some of the youth in playtime or lunchtime, they will gather and have rap battles. There will be someone who do beatboxing. Some of the older students will bring a radio, put the speakers, and and people used to record in like pirate radios. They will go to pirate radios, and obviously we know music's haram. However, what it did kind of create was like a platform for a specific type of youth, where they will just express some of their views. They will say stuff that might not be accepted in mainstream radio or mainstream music, but it was their kind of identity, their culture,
their viewpoint, their preferences.
And it was at that time it was growing. There was no mainstream UK artists that were really popular, but it was from my school and the likes of my school that a lot of popular artists became famous, because it started there, where people were just speaking about their life as a young person. They will be speaking about their areas, their postcodes. They'll be speaking about school.
Which area was it that you?
I'm from West London.
Okay.
West London. And in East London, there was the
It
same
was going
thing
over there as
happening.
well, yeah. So
Yeah.
on both sides of London
Yeah.
that was happening. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah.
I would say, you know, when I work with the youth today, there are many things that when I try to engage with them or when I listen to their conversations or spend time with them that I can relate to. You know, I
think certain things haven't changed.
Yeah, young people will still
Yeah.
think the same, but there is sometimes I do feel very out of
Disconnected.
yeah,
in a way.
I feel like subhanallah in 10 years so much has changed.
Because then now you've got at break time, you know, it's about getting your phones out and looking at certain things on your phones, whatever it may be. Whereas obviously for your times, everybody's gathered together doing a certain activity. And even though maybe that activity is something which we don't see as permissible, there's some benefit in the sense that you said it gave them a platform, gave them a place to get together. Whereas now, I don't know, maybe, you know, there isn't much of a togetherness in the playgrounds.
In particular with Muslims, to tell you the truth. Even though my school didn't have many Muslims, but Asians and Arabs perhaps, they try to fit in with the black culture.
Okay.
And I think the reason for that, in particular with the Asians, is Asians who are born in the UK, they don't feel like they can relate to back homes. Many of them. What do they have that they can be proud of? Bollywood. It's not something they can promote in school.
It's a bit embarrassing.
And Asians faced a lot of racism within the last 20, 30 years from far right extreme groups. So they don't feel like they can relate too much with the mainstream white British population or back home. So they felt like they had nothing. However, the closest thing to them was black culture with in particular music, because the artists, they will speak about like black rights or social justice.
No, I agree as well.
These types of topics, and they feel like I can relate to this.
And and a lot of them grew up in the same areas as well because of, you know, so many different factors, economic factors, social factors, etc. The black communities and Asian communities grew up pretty much together.
They can relate.
There was a sense of unity as well.
Yeah, of course.
I think I agree with you as well. Although my childhood was different, so I don't want to. It's a bit embarrassing. Like for me, it wasn't Grime; it was actually Pokemon cards. And what's that thing? Conkers. You know them Conkers?
Oh, Conkers. Yeah.
That's how we used to connect. But growing up, especially in my early teens, I can definitely resonate with what you said in terms of there was more connection with aspects of black culture and how they are, because we're very inviting and we come from the same socio-economic status possibly, and
it's very interesting.
Exactly.
It's more like a movement where you all come together.
That's what it was. It wasn't just music. It was political. It was social. It was a movement.
So do you think like now youth today, they have that same thing as well, the Asians and the Arabs?
In terms of like music and now it's more about entertainment. It's more about making money. There's no
culture behind it, basically.
There's no positive mentoring or.
Okay. And do you think like the Asian kids and Arab kids still feel like they are close to that kind of black culture? Or do you think they've created their own identity?
I think they created their own identity now. Even Asian artists, they didn't exist, let's say, in the 90s, but there is more Asians in media, Asians in politics. So there is more of a representation, and I think the Asians now feel like they have a body, they have their own identities. Arabs are much smaller in terms of the population. There's only 100,000 Arab Muslims in comparison to around 1.5 million Asians.
Represent.
Do you think that's a good thing, or I mean, like, because the way I see it, subhanAllah, like, I've been working in FOSIS for as long as ever, like nearly 3 years now, or nearly 2.5.
Must be 10 years,
2.5 years or something like that.
Retired.
And I've left now, alhamdulillah, because I've had my time there. But what I was recounting, generally speaking, is that the Arabs generally they dominate these organizations like FOSIS and stuff, and it's really interesting to see that, because you'd say that Muslims, a majority is mainly Asians, but the Arabs, mashallah, they've come together and they've helped sustain their activism in certain organizations, and so it's nice to see that, because sometimes when you're smaller in number, there is more like unity in that sense.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the numbers. I think when Asians came to the UK, they planned to stay. They came to work, and so many of them came together to set up the masajid. Most of the masajid, I would say 80%, are set up by the Asian community.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who set up even the madrasas and, you know, the halal butcher shops. It wasn't the Arabs.
Yeah.
You will hardly find the Arabs. Yeah, it was mainly the Asians because they saw that they are staying here.
Yeah.
And they would save up and you know, build mosques, maybe orphan centers back home, but they saw that we need to invest in the next generation.
Yeah.
But for them, their focus or their vision is having a mosque, having a madrasa. For them, this is the perfect model. But for the Arabs, or the practicing Arabs at least, they they came from countries like Egypt, Syria, that had some political problems.
Also, to interject, would you say that they came later? So
They came later.
The
much
masajid
later.
were already set up.
Yeah.
Okay.
They came much later, and they came due to political reasons.
Yeah.
And for them, politics was more of a priority than setting up masajid.
Yeah.
So they're the ones behind organizations that are similar to think tanks, organizations that are creating like councils or unities, bodies. They're the ones behind. Forces was set up by Arabs and the likes of MEND and other organizations. They're influenced by organizations and movements from the Arab world, in particular Egypt. And Syria, etc.
It's very interesting to see how like experiences from over there travel and create something new over here.
Most of the Muslims, most of the groups in the UK, they all have roots back to another country.
That's very interesting. I think that's something that should be explored much more, especially for the later generations, because now you have 2-3 generations that have only been brought up here, you know, and there might come a time where there will be a disconnect from where your parents, grandparents came from. I think inshallah it's very important for us to kind of continue that education of history for the generations.
That is starting. I think like most people who are British born, we don't really care too much about where you're from originally, except out of interest, you know. But really, we don't use it as a criteria. I lived in Saudi Arabia for nearly 6 years. Unfortunately, it is a judging criteria. The first question they will ask is, where are you from? What nationality are you? And they will judge you based on that.
In Saudi?
In Saudi. So if you're from Pakistan or from Bangladesh or from a country that they see as is a country that is developing or not a developed country, they might look down on that person. If you say I'm from Britannia, mashallah.
Wow,
pull out the red passport.
But in the UK, and you'll find there is some segregation in Saudi where communities stick with each other. The expats will, and they won't kind of have a collective identity. You're from that country, you stay now, even if they live there for 30, 40 years. Whereas here, alhamdulillah, most of my friends, most of your friends who are Muslim, you will have a Nigerian Muslim, a Malaysian Muslim, a convert, different types of people. We will come together and we share the same culture as well. We all like quavers and whatsits and walkers, and we have the same humour and stuff.
That's very interesting.
That's what's really nice about the UK.
Do you think it makes youth work more interesting? The fact that there's so many different backgrounds uniting on, or they don't really see the differences as colour or... So even with the youth, they don't have issues of racism. I don't see this generation, they care much about where someone's from originally. They will accept and welcome any type of person, different background. They might joke, you know, but it's not something too serious or too deep. You know? But the previous generations, they were the ones who came with their own prejudices and stuff like that.
Because there was some political conflicts as well between, let's say, Bangladesh and Pakistan.
Of course.
40 years ago, they won't marry from each other. But today it's becoming more common.
Generally acceptable to mix with each other. You have couples
we will accept that as our generation.
Definitely. So, from knowing that kind of, you kind of grew up in this kind of way, and you're seeing, the youth, generally the issues and the problems are kind of similar, you can relate to them, but sometimes they're things that, are quite new. What kind of then made you want to continue doing the youth work, get involved in it? Like, where did you see the space for yourself to be like, okay, I think from my experiences and what I'm seeing here, I could actually have an impact and do some youth work? What made you want to kind of...
When I was younger, in my teens, I wanted to have fun.
Yeah.
I wanted to have fun. I wanted to meet up with my friends, and I just wanted to have a good time. And but I did have kind of, you know, love for Allah, love for Islam and care. However, I didn't have the knowledge, and I didn't have the environment. And when I did come across, you know, certain experiences, and when I started looking into, you know, starting to practice, I said to myself, I'm prepared. I know this is the right thing to do. I don't need anyone to convince me. However, does that mean that I have to give up my fun now? Does that mean that I'm going to always be in the mosque?
Yeah.
And surrounded by uncles and old people, and I just have to be there 24/7? Is that
Depends what you mean by fun?
Yeah. So, but I said it can't be. It can't be that Islam would restrict my fun as well.
All right. Okay.
So when I did, you know, make a decision, alhamdulillah, I was still quite young at that time. I started seeing the world in a different way, and I started really enjoying life much more.
Okay, that's interesting.
And obviously, I was more sensible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was genuine fun. So, you know, I used to go to Jordan nearly every year. But that time when I started practicing, when I went to Jordan, it's as if I went to Jordan for the first time, because
like
I started
a whole new perspective,
new outlook.
Yeah.
Because when I see the historical sites, I will connect it back to stories from the Quran.
Yeah.
When I see, you know, the atmosphere or the weather is nice, I will connect it back to Iman. When I meet different people. So, but also when you do have fun, it's like Ibn al-Qayyim, he said that when you do an action, you know, a good deed or something that's wajib, let's say like Hajj or Siyam, there is some mushaqqa in it. There could be some hardship in it. But after you complete it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you some pleasure, some happiness, some good feeling, a sakina, that will be long lasting. Whereas when someone does a sin or bad deed, he may think that just for these small seconds he's enjoying himself, he's gaining pleasure, he's gaining some ease. But then after that sin is finished, he feels this guilt that is long lasting, that will leave you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, you know, when we started, alhamdulillah, practicing Islam, and we started appreciating anything that is enjoyable. Just going out with friends for dinner is something we'll do shukr for. Going swimming, playing football, going to Thorpe Park. So what are, you know, Islam doesn't stop us from having fun. In fact, Islam, its objective, its mission is tahqiq sa'adat al-bashariyah. That is the mission of Islam, to spread and establish happiness all over the world. So there's this misunderstanding. This is why I work with the youth, because I want young people to think,
to understand
that you can practice and you can have fun. In fact, you're going to have real fun and more fun as well.
SubhanAllah.
And most of the work we do is a bit different to many other organizations. It's not ilmi, meaning we don't just say, come, we're going to finish this book. I want it to be like Imam and Nawawi. Because Imam Nawawi, when he was young, he was doing many lessons. The youth are different today. There is a small group, mashallah, who are interested in studying their religion full-time and becoming students of knowledge, becoming scholars in the future. We need to take them and invest in them. But we need to realize they're a very, very small minority. Majority of the youth are semi-practicing.
Because this is, to stop you there, that's an issue that I do see, is that a lot of, sometimes, maybe it's just because I'm in the bubble, right, of being one of the youth that are in that minority that want to learn and practice the deen, etc. So maybe it's just from my perspective, but what I do see is a lot of the organizations that are targeted towards the youth, they only focus on that very small group, and it's like you're missing out on such a big pool of youth that you could be losing.
But I would say the youth, I would split them into 3 types of groups. There's the youth who are practicing, and I'm saying those from the ages of 13 to 18. They're children of British-born Muslims who started practicing themselves. Perhaps maybe in a later time, and they practice a version of it. They practice Islam that might be different to their uncles or their fathers. Sorry.
That's quite. I was actually having this conversation at work one time, that the practice of Islam now for some of the youth is different to maybe their parents, because I think what they've realized is that where their parents grew up in that country, Islam and the culture are kind of one, because the country was built with Islamic values and everything. So it's hard to differentiate what might be specifically Islamic and what might be specifically a culture of that country. Now, when they come here, because obviously the religion isn't part of British culture, they can see the difference now. So
also
that's the kind of Islam that they're practicing that's different to their parents.
Also, there's a distinction that they haven't made when they've come here between what is purely Islamic and what is something derived from Islam. So, for example, when they come here, they say like, you know, there's the Pakistani culture, dawat and stuff like that. So they overfeed you and all this kind of stuff. Like they think that some people actually think it's Islamic. It's Islamic to bring them together, to eat, to enjoy, but it's not something that you have to do that makes it like, you know, a Muslim. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a distinction that has to be made, right? So I think that going back to your 3 types of youth you're going to talk about, but I think it's a very interesting discussion to have, is that these young people that start off in that sort of group, they often see Islam for its purest state of what is purely Islam and what isn't. And that's a good way to start, in my personal opinion.
I agree with that. I think with, let's say those who are like 40 plus today, who are British born, when they were growing up here in the UK, and at that time there was hardly any Muslims in school, there was racism going on, there was even murder cases against Asians or Muslims. The famous, you know, Paki bashing cases, they call it. This was real. This used to exist.
And they still, obviously, it was only so long ago.
Yeah, it was 20 years ago.
All of those people are still here with us today that experienced that.
These same brothers, many of them as well, they couldn't relate back to even practicing Islam because their parents didn't speak good English. The only Islam they knew was what the uncle Maulana was teaching in Urdu in the mosque. And that Maulana came from back home. And if you argue with him or if you say anything that doesn't make sense, he might hit you. But then there came a time, especially in the 90s, this British-born or English-speaking du'at started giving lectures in English. And that made a massive impact. They might have not been scholars, but they were brothers who finished from university, eloquent, and they knew how to express Islamic points properly. They really attracted that generation, and many of them started practicing when in university, because da'wah started spreading in university. That freedom that we had with the ISOCs and organizing events, that was used, and in particular we have to give credit to the likes of Abdur-raheem Green. Abdur-raheem Green and the likes of Abdur-raheem, who was given da'wah in the 90s. And they were targeting universities. They saw an English-speaking da'i speaking about Islam, everything started making sense to them. They started practicing. And they are professional Muslims, university educated. So today, their children are 13 years old. They're going to try to make sure that they have Quran classes from a young age. They don't want the same mistake with them. However, what type of Quran classes? They want the right teachers, they want the right programs, they want people that can understand the youth. They want people like us to give them programs, to give them activities. These are one type of Muslim youth today. They come from practicing families. Some of them are Huffaz al-Quran, mashallah. They're 12, 13, educated, smart, and they're Hafiz al-Quran. And they're interested in being Tullab al-Ilm. For them, we need to give them a special program as well, because they should be the people who will be the leaders in the future. We should prepare them for the positions in the future. And they're the ones who should articulate Islam to society, to the politicians, to their generation right now, the people who they're growing up with. They're going to be the next leaders, and they will be the perfect candidate for that. The second group, I would say, are like the semi-practicing youth. Their parents might not care too much about, practicing Islam. They might not care too much if the son listens to music, if the daughter wears makeup. And they go to normal schools. They might not have Islamic tarbiyah, or they might not have Islamic programs before. But they will still regard themselves as Muslim. They still have an identity. A main program for them, I think, should be giving them alternatives. Give them fun, enjoyable, permissible programs and activities that will keep them engaged, and keep them away from haram.
So,
That's the main priority.
On that point, you were saying that when you started practicing the fun, that you felt like you were going to lose it.
Yeah.
Did that particular fun, did you transform the fun you were having to something permissible, or did you have to give that fun up and pick something else up that would be permissible?
I think, me personally, I did a bit of a cold turkey. So, like, for example, some people, if they give up music, let's say, they'll listen to lots of nasheeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just went
straight
a bit cold turkey, but not everyone is like myself. And having said that, we did, for example, do some like trips with some friends to the, you know, to a quiet seaside, or have a barbecue, or go out to even Islamic conferences and lectures. That was that was the fun. That was the fun activities for us, because we'll meet up with some friends. Our favorite speaker will come, and then after that we'll have desserts or dinner and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, we had the limit of enjoying fun and being grateful for that.
Okay, yeah. So when you're trying to apply that same kind of thing to that bracket that you're saying the same you're practicing, what would you use to kind of express the fun to them? Would it be kind of doing the nasheeds, so that if you know they're listening to music, you'd give them the nasheeds, or would you kind of give them something totally different, but show them actually this thing that you've never done before is actually fun as well?
Yeah. I think, it's important that the same way haram things came from creative ideas, we should have creative ideas that are halal, and people that will enjoy, and it doesn't have anything haram in it. And also, like, alhamdulillah, Islam is so comprehensive. Everything that exists in the market, or excuse me, I'm losing my voice. There's always an alternative.
Yeah.
Anything can be Islamified, you can say. So with films,
you're gonna see that, you know, far right thing, like they're Islamifying everything.
You know, with films, we can do performing arts, we can do acting. Yes, we have our Islamic guidelines. You know, we can do singing, we can do, you know, nasheeds with our Islamic guidelines.
Spoken word's a good example, isn't it? No music, nothing. It's just pure. It's a bit like grime, what used to be, but in a halal format in a way, for a lot of Muslims in some ways. Like, for example, there is one guy that I took inspiration from. I did not directly, but I could see his impact. Was Ashley
Chin.
Yeah,
Muslim Bilal.
Muslim Bilal, yeah.
And what he's doing for the youth in that sense. Because people, and also another one is Buna Muhammad. You know, and his spoken word on Sahaba. Because in the madrasa, for the end of the jalsa, end of year jalsa, they had to do performances, and so they were using artists like that to do performances for the kids. You know, and I was thinking, when I was growing up, I didn't actually go madrasa myself, but I was thinking, you know, probably they don't have that sort of outlet for them to express their sort of, you know, creative side. So yeah,
very interesting.
It's a very good point.
Yeah, we need to be more creative, and I think, if I can say, like, some groups, they focus on traditional ilm. You know, we need to seek knowledge. We need to return back to Tawheed, and that's the solution for every problem. Valid point. Valid point. However, it does limit the impact that we can have, because not everyone wants to study Kitab al-Tawheed. Sure. We need to have different means that can, hopefully, we can then change them or move them to the other point. And it won't happen
a development for them to get there.
And this is a wasila anyway. This is a means towards Tawheed. And even if I do something that is enjoyable, I didn't mention anything to do with Tawheed. But I took them in a trip, and I gave them an enjoyable, good time. Due to that trip, they started praying. Due to that, they started fearing Allah more. They started loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is Tawheed. I didn't say the word Tawheed, but I did teach them Tawheed.
And even if you give them snippets of some very basic knowledge, supplement their sort of, with these camps and with these sort of retreats.
So this is what we do. I mean, some programs, it's like 80% ilmi, educational, 20%, 10% fun. With us, we have like 80% enjoyable, 10% educational, 10% spiritual. And I found that they accept it You know, when you give them a good day, and you obviously you're supervising everything as well, so the limits are not crossed. And then we sit down for that 10 minutes, and I'm talking about Jannah with them. I'm talking about some of the issues that we face as a youth and how we can work together, how brotherhood, how iman, how steadfastness will help us. They will listen.
So you say that's like a key formula you found in your work?
They will listen. And for example, we do Umrah trips just for the youth.
Yeah.
And again, in the first 4 or 5 days in Madeenah, we'll do different fun things. We'll take them to the desert, we'll barbecue a whole lamb, sheep, we'll do campfires, we'll have stories, discussions, we'll do quad bikes, we'll do races. You know, next day we'll take them to a really nice 5-star Andalusian style villa.
Yeah.
Has a big swimming pool, sauna, table tennis, football, you know, a whole day of activities. Things that they would never have experienced here in London. We'll take them to a beach night.
It's like as if it's even more fun, like what you said. These things, like doing the things that are Islamically permissible, seem like they're more fun than what you would usually have.
And that's what we need to give good quality as well. Because when they see that this is amazing, they would respect it more. We'll do like a beach trip to the beach. And then we'll do some heritage sightseeing as well, some historical sightseeing. I found that, alhamdulillah, those 4 days they enjoyed it, they had a good time. And it was inspiring because on the way back after that desert night trip, you know, and we gave a small reminder on the stars, the galaxies, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can watch us. I heard conversations from some young people saying, you know, when I come back, I want to do something for Allah. I want to do something in this world, you know. They started having more ambitions.
Yeah, aspirations.
The Umrah trip in itself, you know, if we are designing this program and you're evaluating it, say, okay, there's fun activities here, there's a bit of education. Where's the spiritual part? There's nothing spiritual. Umrah in itself is the spiritual,
aspect,
is the spiritual aspect. SubhanAllah, when you know, after the 4 days of Madeenah, you know, fun time's over, now it's time to be serious, it's time for Umrah, it's time for dua, time for istighfar, labbaik Allahumma labbaik. We were preparing them spiritually. While we were doing Umrah, as soon as we got to Mecca and they saw the Kaaba for the first time in front of their eyes, and we told them, we were walking slowly, we told them to keep your eyes on the floor, and when I tell you to look up, look up. So they looked up when the Kaaba was right in front of them. It was really, really effective and emotional for them. I saw tears in some of their faces. And then while we were doing, you know, the tawaf and then the sa'i, a 13-year-old came up to me and he said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yeah, sure."
He was part of your group?
Yeah, part of this youth Umrah group. He said, "How did you become religious?" And I thought about, why is he asking me that question? And the reason for that is because he's probably thinking about the same thing. He wants to start practicing, but he looks at me or someone else and thinks, maybe it's impossible.
Okay.
Yeah, even though we're nobodies, but for them, they might think, you know, he's very religious.
Yeah.
So they're asking this question to see that, you know, were you like me?
Yeah. Is there a possibility for me to get to your stage?
And I said, you are better than me. Because I didn't change when I was 13. It was a bit later than that. So you're blessed that you want to make a commitment. And practicing Islam, it's not easy. Some people think it's easy and they have that expectation. You know, to make that decision is a very brave and strong decision to commit to Islam for the rest of your life.
SubhanAllah, so true.
You know, and especially in the environment that we have and the times and the temptation stuff. It's not easy for the young
it's not easy.
people.
It's very easy to do the other thing and just say,
it's not easy for us, alone, the younger.
Exactly. Allahu Akbar. So it's good that you touched on some of the projects. So you have, alhamdulillah, your group's called Yaseen Youth Tours.
Yeah.
So some of the different things you mentioned, you do Umrah trips. I think recently I was there with you, we had the youth iftar, and you've had over the summer, you've had your youth scheme. What are some of the other kind of projects you have underneath this?
Right, so the main flagship project is the youth Umrah.
Okay.
Alhamdulillah, it wasn't what I expected. It exceeded my expectation. Alhamdulillah, it's been very impactful for the youth, very life changing. Alhamdulillah. So far we had 200 youth going, and alhamdulillah, Allah blessed us with helping us in terms of organizing it. Everything was made easy. Allah facilitated some ways for us. And then we said, let's do some activities and programs that will follow up here in the UK so that we can engage with Muslims here, young Muslims. So we did have this youth scheme.
Okay.
It's like a summer school for 2 weeks in 4 different locations. And it had a few lessons based on the life of Musa alayhi salam in the morning. And then in the afternoon, we'll always have like a trip or an activity, maybe football and barbecue. We took them paddle boarding in Paddington Canal. Okay. We would take them we'll do some creative performing arts. We'll have different workshops from very senior people that can give inspirational, guidance. Alhamdulillah, that has been very, very good. And most of them were the semi-practicing youth. And we managed to, alhamdulillah, most of them, if not all of them, said this has been a great experience and they will come every year. In the beginning, before they knew about it, they were 50-50. And I would say to them, look, this is not school. I know you just finished school, you don't want to go back to school. I understand that. This is not school. This is fun, inshallah. There will be some lessons, I'm not going to lie to you, but you're going to have a good time, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, they managed to bond and make friends and so on. The following week, because it was the day of Arafah, the most important blessed day of the whole year, most Muslims, even like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, they didn't know what Arafah was. They didn't know that you have to fast or it's good to fast on Arafah. Alhamdulillah, that changed now, but still within young people, they don't usually fast. So we said it would be a good idea to get them to fast, to encourage them to fast. So we did in one of the royal parks in London, we did a program.
This was recently, wasn't it?
This was last week. So we brought some spoken word artists, we had a few speakers, we had some competitions, we had a debate, and we had some free food. Alhamdulillah, I thought between 30 to 50 people will attend. And on the day, alhamdulillah, around 130 shabab came, alhamdulillah. Really good. And it was such a nice atmosphere. It was a really good day. So we're planning to do more kind of events and activities, projects, programs that are more long-lasting, inshallah. So since I've been back, we've been planning for that. Okay, that's good. Alhamdulillah. So there'll be more to come, inshallah. So do you think these kind of youth programs that you've been organising with yourself and other brothers in the different communities, do you think it's meeting its aims and objectives, or do you think that something else strategically needs to be done to engage the youth and bring them from kind of, you said that the point of doing this is bring them from that point of not practicing or semi-practicing to understanding that Islam is something that they can actually have in their life? I think no doubt it has benefits, alhamdulillah, but it's not enough. It's not enough. Like we need the whole Muslim community to see youth work as a priority, because we don't. I think the 2 main priorities for Muslims here in the UK is youth work and da'wah to non-Muslims. And unfortunately, these are the 2 things that are neglected. Name me 5 da'wah organizations. You can't. I can name you maybe 1 or 2. Yeah, 1 or 2. Yeah. Because that's the only organizations that exist that we know. And they're limited in terms of resources, staff. They're overstretched. The people are involved in different things. I think, and both of them are based in London, the ones I can think of. UK is massive, That's another point I think is really important to mention as well, is that there's this sort of London effect, where everything happens in London. That's true. But I think that as an economist, I don't call myself an economist, someone who studied economics, I think that there is a need for a strategic, not invasion, all of these statements you're going to get everyone's going to be honest. There's a strategic, there's a strategy that we need to have as an ummah. It's connected, where we kind of make Yaseen Youth Tours and stuff like this something that's spread out around the UK, especially where there are Muslims living in not very small minorities. I went to a school, I was probably only 2 Muslims in my year. So and it was very close to a Muslim area. So even then, it's a good point. But because even I started when you were saying how you grew up, it was the youth were like this and like that. That's probably quite centered to London culture, to be honest. And there may be so many other cities in the UK. But even it's even worse now, to tell you the truth, because at my time there were some youth clubs. And when Labour existed, they saw youth clubs and youth work as something that's quite good.
Important.
Because, you know, like there's a lot of single mothers, there's a lot of youth crimes. However, the Conservatives, since the last 10 years, they cut a lot of fundings to youth work and the disabled sector, and many sectors. They didn't see it as something important. Hundreds of youth clubs are closed down, and the fundings for youth organisation, it doesn't exist anymore. So that makes you know, it makes it a bit harder. But there's good in it as well, because I think we shouldn't just rely on funding from the government, or we shouldn't even get fundings from the government. We should get fundings from the Muslim community, and they are able to afford it, you know. And we need to change our priority as well, because we focus on back home too much, which is important. We need to look after the poor people, the underprivileged people. That is a priority. However, we shouldn't overstretch it, and we shouldn't forget about the Muslims here in the UK, the next generation. 70% of the Muslim population are young people. 1 in 10 people in prison are Muslims. So there is a problem. If we fix the youth here, then there will be the people who will fix the problems back home and abroad. And just to mention, this is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. He invested in the youth. He spent lots of time with Anas ibn Malik, not 6 months, not 10 months, 10 years.
Wow.
He spent time with Musab ibn Umayr, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Abu Hurayrah, Ibn Abbas, Ibn Mas'ud, and the list goes on. He invested in the youth. He didn't see them as youth or children. You know, why should I give my time to them? And as a result, who was the next generation? Who were the leaders? These same youth who were 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds at the time of the Prophet ﷺ.
I was going to say, sorry, Ustad, before you to interject, but also another point to mention is that at that time when they were growing up, the importance was there, but they never, like, how do I say this? Like, there was Abu Sufyan, there was Suhail ibn Amir, sorry.
They're old.
Suhail, and there was old, from the old Kaaba, the old people, the Sahaba, they were the ones who were in the society, they were the ones who were in charge. But then when the young people were growing up, they never realized how much they will achieve in terms of their legacy. So the old people, they had Islam, but when they went, many of their like, we know them to be the Sahaba, of course, but we know the younger ones much more, like Ibn Abbas. We know even Aisha, the youngest wife of the Prophet ﷺ, and the amount of hadith she narrated, over 3,000 hadith. And this is the sort of legacy that they left as young people. And I think that we should also look at our forefathers and look at their
then they're the ones who spread Islam as well.
Exactly,
They're the ones who like liberated people who were under injustice and spread justice. It was them. And even subhanallah, the hikmah of, you know, even Ibn Khaldun mentions this in the tafsir, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made al-Ard al-Muqaddas, the blessed holy land, he made it haram for the Bani Israel, because they were ordered to go with Musa, and they said, we're not going to go in because there are qawmun jabbarun, or people with Jabbara, talk about the Palestinians, mashallah. So they said, go you and your Lord to Musa, and you fight, we are here. So as a result, they were banned from Palestine. They were banned from the Holy Land because they disobeyed Musa, they disobeyed Allah for 40 years. What is the hikmah behind 40 years? Ibn Khaldun mentions this, that 40 years is the time period to get a new generation.
Oh, wow, okay.
So that generation will be expired, the new generation will come,
and
they have a new chapter now, new chance to make a change, make a difference. And you would notice that historically until today, every 40 years,
there's a change.
Even in our masajid now, the last 40 years it was run by uncles who had sincerity, mashallah, and they set it up, but they didn't have perhaps the outlook, or they didn't have the knowledge, the guidance for the Muslim community, or in particular to the youth. But now, alhamdulillah, we have some of the British-born young brothers in their 20s, 30s in the committee. And they're starting to organize projects and programs, and the masajid are changing. These open days, for example. That wouldn't happen if it was just organized by uncles. They would love for it to happen, but they wouldn't see it as something too important.
There are like 1 or 2 masjids I've gone to where their uncles are still running it, and they haven't seen the importance of that open day.
Engaging,
and eventually
yeah.
some of the youth get in, they do it, and then the uncles realize that, okay, we
because
have to.
our parties, this generation, were brought up with the mainstream, you know, non-Muslims, and we see it as important for them to understand our religion. We see it as important to be part of Britain and British society and be the same.
Yeah.
You know, the only difference is our religion. However, like many of the uncles when they came in the 60s, 70s, their party is making a living. You know,
Of course,
and
you
a
had to
lot of them
survive.
had,
Yeah.
you know, jobs like being a minicab driver, having a corner shop. So they weren't engaged too much with society due to their jobs, and they were just in their small communities in East London in particular, and they didn't see the other part of
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the world.
It was a bubble, wasn't it?
Yeah.
yeah. Until today, you have
But at the end of the day, that's not something that we're putting blame on them. It's they had
No.
to do that.
no,
you know?
it was a result. Yeah,
That's what it was.
that's how it was.
So I wanted to touch on, in terms of the relationship that you've had with some of your teachers, as because your teachers will be much more older than you, so they would consider you a youth.
Yeah.
You know, in the same way that you would consider, you know, the ones that are younger you as the youth, and
Yeah.
you would be their teachers.
Yeah.
So in that kind of relationship, as you being a youth towards your older teachers, I know one person that has had an impact. You talked about him many times, Sheikh Abdullah al-Shinqetee. What kind of impact do you think that he's had on you that's allowed you to then bring that into your youth work? Like, and that kind of relationship from him going down to you, as him seeing you as a youth, and you seeing you know, the others as you're a teacher and they're the youth.
I think Sheikh Abdullah Hafidhullah, when he saw me, that I'm a young person, and he saw me in the university, that I was trying to organize, you know, like trips and events for the British or the Western students. Before going to Madeenah, I came from a background of ISOCs and FOSIS and Al-Muntada.
Okay, yeah.
So I was used to
organizing things.
Yeah. So when I went to Madeenah, I saw that there isn't much brotherhood.
Okay.
And there's nothing being organized. There's no football. There's no trips. No Umrah. And we should have more of these things than just in university. In university, we'll organize it because we're the only Muslims in university. We need to create this bond and relationship. So we'll do things together.
Yeah.
I said, we're Tullab al-ilm. We're going to be the future du'ats. We need to be close with each other. So I struggled for the first year to speak to the seniors to organize something. Alhamdulillah, after 2 years, you know, we created a team and we organized many programs and trips and activities. And there was a strong brotherhood, strong relationship. Alhamdulillah, like 90 students will come to one of our programs. And it really had an impact even until today. In the summer holiday, we'll cooperate. Today now, many of us, we finished from studies. We cooperate with each other. We have a connection. You know, Ustad Ashraf, one of my best friends, Ustad Abdul Kareem, Ustad Mustafa. They're all imams today in different locations in London. And we are, inshallah ta'ala, going to do da'wah together as well. So back to Sheikh Abdullah, he really kind of gave me some encouragement. And for me to see like a great scholar who teaches in the Prophet's mosque, he's got a chair where, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people would want to say salam to him. For him to give me some, you know, encouraging words, for him to spend time with me, for him to travel with me and, you know, say good things to others about me, that was really kind of, it had an impact. Firstly, it made me think, subhanAllah, I don't deserve this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me for my shortcomings and mistakes. But for Sheikh Shinqetee to say that, that means I need to take this responsibility, you know, more seriously. If Sheikh Abdullah believes in me, you know, that he thinks that I have a responsibility, I have a job to do, and he's encouraging me to continue, I must do it. This is a test from Allah. And there were gatherings. Once I brought Muslim Bilal to meet Sheikh Shinqetee, and we were outside in a garden, and all of his students were there.
I think I saw this on your Facebook Live.
Yeah. So we went to see him, and he had there was around, you know, 50 students of his close students. And this is what he does. This is what I love about the Sheikh, is he's not just a teacher. Yeah, he will need it every month. He will invite 50 students. He will bring 2 sheep, and He'll invite them for food. He'll rent a villa that has a swimming pool. He used to always donate every month or so. There'll be students. He'll give them some money. Poor people. I've never seen someone like him. And in that gathering, someone asked him, you know, give us some advice for da'wah. How should we go give da'wah?
Okay.
And the Shaykh, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, forgive me for mentioning this, he said, speak to Omar Hajaj. You know, he's over here. Take some ideas. And after he finished his lecture, some people started coming up to me, and I said, but it made me think that the Shaykh, may Allah bless him, he has husn al-dhan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when he came to the UK as well, and we showed him the da'wah, and
I remember that you brought him to UK and he was doing some lectures.
Yeah. And subhanallah, this is how, يعني إن شاء الله نحسبه كذلك رجل مبارك. He is a blessed man. We hope he is.
Yeah.
Because subhanallah, when he went to the UK, everyone heard of Sheikh Mukhtar al-Shinqetee, right?
Yeah, his father.
But I don't. No. Sheikh Muhammad Mukhtar, who is one of the fuqaha in Medina. He's famous on YouTube. He gives like heart softening, iman boosting, imans. It's translated, and he's mashallah. We can speak so much about him as well. But I don't think the UK or the West knows too much about Sheikh Abdullah Shinqetee. His father, Sheikh Muhammad Amin al-Shinqetee, was one of the greatest scholars in the last 100 years. This is no exaggeration. Like, he was a teacher of Sheikh Ibn Baz, Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen. He had a massive impact on the Ummah.
May Allah grant him high ranks.
May Allah grant him paradise. And he's the one who wrote one of the biggest tafsirs in the last 50 years, Adwa al-Bayan, which is equivalent to Ibn Kathir of our time, you can say. And he's one of the only scholars that other scholars said, he's one of the only scholars that is regarded as a mujtahid mutlaqan. Mujtahid mutlaqan. We have, you know, muhaddith, we have faqih, you know, then we have mujtahid, you know, and then we have mujtahid mutlaq. Yeah, that is, you know, high status of scholarship. He's one of the only ones that we had in our times. So Sheikh Abdullah was his son, and he took the tarbiyah from him. Let me just mention a few things about his character. He was always positive. He always calls for reconciling and creating love between the hearts of Muslims. This is what made me love the Shaykh. Alhamdulillah, there's other scholars in Medina who we respect. But he was unique because in his durus he would talk about the Ummah. He's teaching tafsir. And tafsir is lessons for all times and all places. But in the end he will talk about let's unite as Muslimin, you know, let's help each other, let's start to love each other, let's move our differences. And I didn't see that in Medina with any other Shaykh. I saw mashayikh who say Qala Allah, Qala Rasul, then in the end they'll call for division. You know, their students are causing fitna. I'm in the same university, I'm in the same classroom, and this person doesn't want to say salam to me.
Subhanallah.
Why? Like, he doesn't know me, he doesn't know, you know, anything about me. But because, he used to, in the UK, he used to pray in a masjid called al-Muntada. Okay, what's wrong with al-Muntada? Oh, al-Muntada, you know, they once invited a sheikh. Okay, what's wrong with that sheikh? That sheikh, once he shared a platform with someone who's got some mistakes in aqeedah. Does that make me a criminal now? Yeah. We had that in Medina, and subhanAllah, unfortunately, students will come from the UK, very innocent, naive, you know, will come with Talib al-ilm, and then they'll get sucked into this. 2 months later, I'm a mubtada. 2 months later, Umar is a deviant, Fulan's a deviant. You know, you just start, you don't know Arabic yet. Just learn Quran, Arabic. Take it habba habba, take it easy.
Take it easy, You know, just quickly on that, it's quite interesting because you're there with the same teachers and you're studying the same books in the same university, and somebody next to you is also doing the same thing, but that person comes out in one way, and you, I don't mean you specifically, but just generally, another person might come out in a different way. At what point do you think the difference is created? Do you think it's like the tarbiyah that they were given prior to come to the uni, or do you think it's within the uni that their kind of experiences changed?
I think some before the university, some are peer pressured. This is the honest truth. Like, they come to the university, and I've seen it myself, right? There was one brother, And I've always, you know, made efforts with them. Like, they don't say salam to me, but when I walk past them, I'll smile, I'll say salam to them.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'll still treat them as a Muslim brother. In fact, alhamdulillah, just before I left the university, when I finished my studies, we had some dinner with some students. One of the people that came to my farewell dinner, you can say, before going back to London, was a student who was from that mindset.
Okay.
Yeah, who used to hear everyone say to him, don't say salam to Umar. And he came and he got me a gift that day. And he said to me, and just before we were finishing the gathering, he wanted to speak. And everyone was shocked. Out of all people, he wants to speak. He goes, I just want to say that, you know, I love Umar for the sake of Allah. I was shocked for me to hear. Yeah, because for 5 years, I've been hearing everyone talk about him. And I had this impression of him. But every time he walks past me and sees me, he will check up on me. He will say salam, etc. And that's why I want to say this in front of everyone. Alhamdulillah, he kind of left that as well. Yeah, and we're still in touch. Anyway, the point is, some of them are peer pressured. You know, once I was on a plane from London to Madeenah, and one of those brothers, we were queuing up to buy a SIM card in Jeddah airport or Riyadh airport, and he didn't want to say salam to me. He was right in front of me. Imagine, we're in a different country now, and we're both from the same area, same city. He didn't want to say salam to me. And then he was trying to buy a SIM card, but he was struggling with his Arabic. So so the salesman couldn't sell to him. He didn't understand him. And then I helped him.
Yeah.
And I told him about the good offer and stuff. And then he said to me, Jazakallah khair, you know, for helping me.
Yeah.
As a result, alhamdulillah, we sat next to each other on the plane. And we were speaking for a good...
whole plane?
Yeah, no, it was 1 hour from Riyadh to Madeenah. SubhanAllah, we had amazing conversations. Like, he had a great time. I saw a different person, you know. We were laughing, we were smiling, and we would just talk about general things. Like, we weren't talking about Islamic or political things. We would speak about things that, you know, both of us can relate to, and etc. As soon as I got to the airport, one of the seniors of that group, he wanted to pick him up. So we took our luggage. We were just about to come out. And we agreed that we'll take a taxi to the university together. Yeah. And then I saw one of the seniors, and he's looking around and stuff. Look to my left, look to my right. That brother's gone. So what happened? Where is he gone? And he had to hide, basically, because he couldn't be seen.
Yeah,
with
because
me.
of the peer pressure.
And it's peer pressure, because there's a lot of them who are sincere, good guys, and they're peer pressured. In fact, one brother who got in touch with me recently, he left the university, and he said he was depressed, he was homesick, he was lonely, and he said, I wanted to apologize to you, because he wanted to get into the university so badly. And we helped him get into the university. You know, we did the paperwork, interviews. We done some running around. When he came, we tried to help him get a room and everything. And literally 1 week after, he stopped saying salam to us. He stopped replying to us. He walked past us, you know, give us a, you know, bad look. And I was confused. But I said, leave him, khalas. May Allah give him tawfiq. 1 year later, like, he met me in London. He came to the masjid. And he just explained what happened. You know, he said I was gonna break down. I had enough, like, because of that peer pressure. But anyway, like, back to Sheikh Abdullah, I saw he had a good heart. Yeah. And he was calling for, you know, softening the hearts between Muslims. And this is the da'wah that I really wanted to subscribe to. Alhamdulillah, and there's mashayikh here in the UK. Yeah, 100%.
YouTube channel.
Yes, 100%. Like, this is Islam.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, you know, we are Muslims. I would never call myself a group. I would never call myself Salafi, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, we are Muslims, and despite what anyone says, nothing, you know, from the authentic sources tells us that we have to call ourselves a group. And this only causes for division. Yeah, we shouldn't do tazkiyah of our nafs as well. We shouldn't. You know, the Salaf, Ahl Salaf, we would wish to be like them. Yeah. They were Ahl al-Qiyam, wa Ahl al-Dhikr, wa Ahl al-Quran, wa Ahl al-Fadl, wa Ahl al-Ilm, all of these things. For me to use their name and hijack it,
Subhanallah.
yeah, but that's given tazkiyah. I wouldn't call myself al-muhsinun, as-salihun, as-sadiqun, because am I a sadiq? Am I a salih? Am I a muhsin?
If you're acting like that and doing that, subhanallah. What are kind of some of the benefits that you took from that relationship that you had with Sheikh Abdullah into your youth work?
Yep. That, be humble. The youth, treat them, be on their level.
Yeah.
And subhanAllah, one thing that Ustaz Ashraf told me actually, we did some youth circles.
Okay.
Like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
In the summer, three years ago. And Ustaz Ashraf was leading in one of the circles. And they were young. When we advertise it as youth circles. And we were expecting 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds. But every parent, they see their 5-year-old, the 6-year-old, especially like we had a lot of Somali brothers in our community. They saw their 5-year-old, 6-year-old, youth. Free halaqah, take my children. So anyway, Ustaz Ashraf said to me, he had like 50 youth, 50 students. It was a lot to manage, and and he's trying to teach seerah, he's trying to teach deen, aqidah. Now, when we come from Madeenah, not that it's a good thing, but usually, people show some respect. Oh, you're from Madeenah. They might call the person ustaz and stuff. Yeah. Which, to tell you the truth, we don't like. Because we know ourselves better than anyone else. Like we don't want this status. So he said, these youth, these children, they don't care if you're Shaykh al-Islam or not. Yeah, they're not, because they're not gonna show that respect. They'll stay quiet when you're saying a hadith. You're doing more managing of the classroom than teaching. Yeah. So
they don't know that kind of relationship.
But he said it humbled me. Because usually we come to the lecture, نقدم الآن, we present to you, Ustaz Fulan, he's a graduate from Jamia Islamiyya, and everyone's listening, Jazakallah khair, kaza, and to that. So, subhanAllah, and this is one of the reasons why I prefer to work with the youth as well. Okay. Especially those who don't care what Jamia Islamiyya is. They don't care about Madeenah University. They don't know who Sheikh Ibn Baz is. They don't know all these things. They just need basic iman. Yeah. You need to save their iman. Obviously, we still have our programs, our project for the students of knowledge and the other types of people, but for them,
that keeps you grounded.
Yeah, and that's how you know if you're successful with them. Inshallah, your work is sincere. Inshallah, your work is good, because if you're doing it with the converted, you already have credibility. Yeah, you already have already ticked. Yeah. But if you're starting with people you would never have targeted before, who don't know anything about your background, and they accepted, the activities and stuff, and they respected you and they liked you, there's inshallah there's khair. Inshallah there's khair. So with Sheikh Abdullah, the youth we invited, when we brought the youth on Umrah, they met the Sheikh and they really liked him, because he's very humble, and even when he came to the UK, I brought my young cousin with me to the tour. Yeah. So Sheikh Abdullah will be speaking to him throughout the, in the car, and what you're going to be when you're older, and mashallah, giving him some encouragement. Yeah. But one thing I learned about Sheikh Abdullah, I saw many scholars in Madeenah, and after the class, people want to say salam to them, and I saw some scholars, unfortunately, they were a bit harsh, in Madeenah, that like, don't come too close to me. Yeah. And they will be wearing, their bish, and unfortunately, I could be wrong, but I saw a bit of arrogance. Yeah, the Fadilat al-Sheikh. And but with Sheikh Abdullah, subhanallah, like, he will be sitting on the floor with them, and I know he's busy. I know he's got so much positions and responsibilities. But after Isha, every day, for a good half an hour to 1 hour, there's people who want to speak to him, who will sit down and listen and talk to them. Once, it was after Isha. Most people in Masjid al-Nabawi left. And I was sitting with the Sheikh outside in the court, where the big umbrellas are and stuff. And we were talking. And then one man came, old man, rough, ripped up thobe, dusty, dirty, hair's all messy, looked like he had petrol on his face. Yeah, mud and dust. Now, these people, usually, people like, Jazakallah khair, we don't have anything for you. Yeah. Like, stay away kind of thing. They might have mental issues, they might have problems. Sure. Yeah. So he was coming towards us, I think, oh man, he's going to distract us. And
ask us
what does he have? Yeah. And then I'm speaking to the Sheikh, and then he went to Sheikh Abdullah and he says, Salaamu Alaikum, Sheikh Abdullah. So Sheikh Abdullah turns around and he smiles and he gets up, Ahlan, Ahlan, kif halak? And he hugs him and says, Salam.
As if he knows him.
Kif halak? And he calls him by his name.
Oh, okay.
Then the guy goes, Ya Sheikh, ana mareed, ana mareed. Oh Sheikh, I'm sick.
Yeah.
And he started to complain.
Yeah.
And Sheikh Abdullah is, he's still smiling. He's like, طيب يا أخي اذهب إلى المستشفى تعالج. He goes, طيب, go to the hospital, like seek medicine, seek a cure. So, أنا مريض ما عندي زوجة ما عندي حدا. I don't have anyone to take me. I have no wife. Sheikh Abdullah goes, طيب يا أخي اذهب إلى المستشفى خلي الممرضة تعالجك بعدين تزوج الممرضة. He's like, go to the hospital, let the nurse see you, let her check up on you, and then marry the nurse. Yeah? And then he started laughing. So, mashallah, he's good at placing like happiness and joy in people's hearts. I saw he always does that. We're walking in the haram after Isha, and subhanallah, I have to thank him because towards the end, I had a big problem that I was going through with the university. And for like a good 3 weeks, I'm making dua, I'm speaking to seniors in the university, nothing was working out for me. And when I saw him and I told him about the issue, within 10 minutes he solved it for me. And he subhanAllah, I was making dua in the haram for this problem to be solved. And then this idea came to me. I said, why did I not speak to Sheikh Abdullah? And after finishing that dua, I see Sheikh Abdullah right in front of me walking past. And he didn't see me for a good 2-3 weeks. So I went up to him and he said, and he was like, Ahlan, kif halak, how's everything? Is everything okay? And I said to him, there's a small issue. And then his face just changed. And he's like, طيب. He took me from my hand and wanted to find a quiet place to sit down with me. And on the way, people see him. And there was a brother that came and said salam to him. And the Sheikh asked him, where are you from? He said, I'm from Iraq. I'm from Iraq. أهل العراق أهل العلم وأهل اللغة وأهل البلاغة وأهل الفضل. He was mentioning all the historical great things about the people of Iraq, their knowledge. وبغداد وما أدراك ما البغداد وله. And then he mentions the imams and stuff. Every person he meets, he'll find a good quality in them and who will share it with them. And who always, someone coming from the West, Sheikh Yasir Qadi once came and introduced him to him, or any Sheikh, he will encourage them, like, da'wah and carry on. And every dars that I would go to, in the end, he used to make a dua. And then whenever I used to join in the dua, I felt my iman going strong. And I felt re-motivated. Like, it was in those durus, tafsir lessons, that were all my notes for Yaseen Youth Tours and da'wah ideas and projects used to come.
Wow.
Because he used to inspire me in these lessons. Because in the end, حي بنا أن نتعلم هذا الدين ونتعلم هذا القرآن ونبلغ هذا القرآن حتى يجعل السعادة في قلوب الناس. Like in the end, there's some encouragement. Let's do the work.
It's powerful. Powerful.
I used to look forward to it from the morning until Isha. Subhanallah, hafidhahullah.
We ask that Allah allows you to have a similar impact with the youth here, the same way Sheikh Abdullah has had the impact on you, inshallah. And on that point, I just want to end with like a final question and reflection. Is following on from that, we try to put lots of kind of onus on kind of the teachers, the scholars, the imams, the elders, to give us the guidance, to give us the pathway, give us the tools and things like that to help ourselves or to help the youth and to help the issues that we have in the community. But what do you think the community themselves need to take as a responsibility? The youth themselves should take as a responsibility. Of course, our teachers, our scholars, the elders in our community have the responsibility to ensure that the youth are going the right direction. And alhamdulillah, yourself, you're trying to take a small part of that responsibility with your organizations and Yaseen Youth and things like this. And the same way Sheikh Abdullah has obviously taken a part of the responsibility by teaching people like yourself. But what do you think the students or the youth can do themselves with, without, the tools from the elders to ensure that we are putting ourselves in the right place and making sure that we're moving forward?
I think, alhamdulillah, young people, they're smart, they're intelligent, and we had many like creative innovations that were from young people. And that energy needs to be used, that intelligence, these blessings that they have, it needs to be used in the right way. اعملوا فكل ميسر لما خلق له. Do the actions, work hard, be proactive. Everyone will be guided to their position, to their future in society. I think, subhanAllah, there's people working very, very hard, you know, spending millions of money, their ideas, they're coming together to misguide the youth. You know, the music industry, the fashion industry, games, film, millions of pounds are being spent and it's targeting the youth and it's working. If we don't have that same efforts, we're not going to be able to counter them. And we don't have that same effort. So I think for young people, we need you, young person, to be careful from the traps. And to know that you are much greater than what society tells you are, or your school, or what you may think you are. You have amazing qualities, and you are in a society that is not an illiterate society. Yeah, you have access and capabilities to do great things, even if you're 12, 13. So use your energy, use your time, have a vision from today, 12, 13, have a vision and write one page, okay, of how you're going to achieve this vision. Have that plan and write down 3 or 4 main priorities or responsibilities that you should have, which is your religion firstly, your education, your family, and which career perhaps that you want to get into. Write these 4 things down and write down for each one 4 ways that you can excel in these 4 important responsibilities. So in your deen, you need 4 things. From now on, I'm going to pray on time. From now on, I'm going to read a bit of Quran every day. From now on, I'm going to give sadaqah £1 a week. From now on, I'm going to try pray qiyam. 4 things that will improve your deen. And 4 things that will improve your education. From now on, I'm going to study 1 hour every day. If I want to be an A-star student, from the beginning of the year until the end, 1 year revision, 1 hour revision every day, and 2 months before my exams, 3 hours revision a day. In the weekend, 4 or 5 hours, if you want to achieve high grades. Family, you know, maybe spend more time with my mother. When she's going shopping, go with her. Teach my younger brother, tutor them. You know, do something fun or engaging with my family. And lastly, my career, you know, or my position. If you want to be a doctor, if you want to be someone in a peacemaker, a politician, a humanitarian, then use some of your time today to build that experience so you'll be a great one in the future. If you volunteer your time with a charity, or you shadow a good politician, for example, you get involved in these events, these debates, then within those 2 years, you know, you would excel and be much more advanced than the rest.
And the thing is that you mentioned is that there's always a holistic, collective form of legacy that you can leave that combines all kinds of different things. Like, subhanAllah, like one of my students that I taught, I've stopped teaching now, but last last academic year, he received his GCSE results 1 week ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about a week ago.
MashaAllah, he got 9 A stars.
Wow, mashallah.
And 1 A.
Mashallah.
And this is someone who came first in his madrasa studies.
Wow.
Someone who came first in madrasa studies, and even I played football with him as well.
He's very good at football.
He's decent at football as well. It's okay. But the purpose I'm trying to make is that, going back to this deen, is that obviously it's wasi', it's something that's
no, deen over dunya.
Deen over dunya, always.
And that's advice to parents as well. Put your deen before dunya. Sometimes we want our children to be in prep schools and grammar schools, great, but not in the expense of the deen. You know, okay, he might be polite, he might say some good words, but what about his deen, his aqidah, his salah? So always have, if you're going to take them to a good school, which we encourage, have a Islamic tarbiyah program as well.
Definitely.
In the weekend, in the evenings, let them memorize Quran. Some will say, oh, you know, it's too harsh, it's too hard for them, you know, they're still young. No. You know, this is what's going to preserve them and protect them. And make sure, obviously, you do it in a clever way, a wise way, where they enjoy it and they love it, and you treat them and reward them for every time they memorize, for every time they go to Islamic programs, but make sure you safeguard their iman first. Then top it up with the academic, worldly, benefits. However, the foundation is the deen and the iman.
Yeah. SubhanAllah. Jazakallah khairan. I think that's a good point to end on, inshallah. So, for the viewers to remember that we have Ibn Battuta's boat on all the different social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of these kind of things. You can search it up and subscribe to the YouTube channel, so you can get the updates with all the different kind of guests, inshallah, we're going to be bringing on. Sheikh Umar, is there anything that you want to mention in terms of where people can find maybe Yaseen Youth Tours or anything like this?
I thought the camera was there all that time. I was looking there, and I just realised it's here. So sorry to the viewers. Please support us. We don't need, we don't need, namely donations, but we need people. We need human resources. We need the people with their ideas. We need their time. We need them to take it as a collective responsibility. And that's how we will make a change. And just to end, as an example, let's look at South Korea. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it was a very poor country. It suffered from a war, it was destroyed, there was nothing there. What changed it? The people. People, they invested in the people, and due to human resources, people working hard, people seeing it as their responsibility, they became productive, they became proactive. Then they created cars, and they manufactured so many different things that we benefit in the world from. South Korea, they didn't have petrol like other countries. That's what made them a developed, richer country. So similarly, the youth, we need, inshallah ta'ala, a movement. We need hundreds and hundreds of people to be involved, and that's when, inshallah, we will make the difference, inshallah, in the whole country.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khairan. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
قد ذهبت أربه كل من سار على الدرب وصل في ازدياد العلم إرغام العدا وجمال العلم إصلاح العمل جمل المنطق بالنحو فمن يحرم الإعراب بالنطق اختبل انظم الشعر ولازم مذهبي في اطراح